Hi there, I'm the Mythkeeper. Welcome back to my channel, the best place on the internet for Pathfinder lore and history. If you like this kind of content, be sure to like and subscribe, and if there's anything you'd like to know about in particular, let me know in the comments below, as I do read all the comments. This week we're going back to Tian Xia. I'm doing a region deep dive on a region that I'm calling the Eastern Successor States. This includes the kingdom of Linvarre, which was once conquered by the Empire of Taldor. It includes Kwanlai, which is the Tengu nation, and it also includes Tianjing, which is a nation that is predominantly controlled by Nephilim of the Empyrean bloodline, which seemed like a good place to go after my region deep dive of Holomog, which is kind of similar to it, located closer to the Inner Sea. Anyway, this is a really fun video. Hope you enjoy.
In my last region deep dive, I took a look at Holomog, the nation bordering the Inner Sea with the highest population of Nephilim of any in the region. This week, instead, I take a look at Tianjing, as well as two other unique nations from the Eastern Successor States in Tian Xia. Like Holomog, here we find another nation touched and transformed by the celestial powers, although its history is a little different. Alongside Tianjing, I'm also looking at the Tengu nation of Kwanlai, and the nation at the far end of the Sea of Ghosts that was colonized by Taldor at the dawn of the Age of Lost Omens. These three eastern nations on mainland Tian Xia form three different, unique, and highly recognizable cultures. With that broad summary out of the way, let's take a closer look at the history of the Eastern Successor States. I'm going to move through my history section fairly quickly this time. A very robust look at overall Tian Xia history is provided in my Tian Xia Overview Guide, and a more detailed regional history is touched on in my recent Northern Conquered States region deep dive, with which these Eastern Successor States share a lot of common history. I will quickly walk through some key dates though, just to ensure all the important details are covered here in one place for players and GMs setting adventures in this part of Tian Xia. We begin in the Age of Monsters, where in the lands of modern-day Kwanlai and in parts of Linvarre, the dominant species were the powerful magical shape-shifting monsters known as the Yaoguai. In these more southern parts of the Successor States, however, the Yaoguai were not the only creatures to threaten the ancient world. In the region now known as Tianjing, the Clipoths came through a number of planar breaches. The intrusion of these dangerous hostile entities native to the outer rifts was detected in the heavens above, and the Clipoths were met in battle by a host of celestial beings summoned from the higher realms to counter this threat. Ultimately, before the end of the Age of Monsters, the Celestials achieved victory. The Clipoths were forced back, but the landscape had been irrevocably altered, and the strain on the celestial forces was such that they could not fully mend the rifts through which the Clipoths had come. Instead, they sealed the smaller breaches as best they could, and assumed the duty of guarding those they could not mend. For thousands of years, the Celestials remained bound to this task, maintaining watch over the rift while the world around them changed. Mountains rose and eroded, seas advanced and receded, and eventually the Age of Dragons and the Age of Ashes came to pass in Tian Xia. Over time, the Celestials observed the growth and spread of mortal civilization across the realm. While they recognized certain faults in the mortals, they also found resilience and nobility with them. Gradually, the Celestials mingled with the mortals, and their lineage gave rise to Nephilim descendants, whom they would judge brave and pure enough to inherit the duty of guarding the Clipoth gates. Because of their celestial patronage, the kingdom of Tianjing was therefore formed before the Age of Ascension, and in many ways Tianjing was the oldest nation of Tian Xia. With the dawn of the Age of Ascension, however, came the rise of the first great Tian Empire, Yixing, which expanded to encompass many of its southwestern territories by the year 88 of the imperial calendar. The emperor to ascend to the throne in this year was the kingdom's general, a powerful warrior named Ao Lin, and he had succeeded Empress Su, the first empress of the Yixing Empire. 10 years later, in the year 98, Emperor Ao Lin sent diplomatic envoys to the kingdom of Tianjing, telling the Celestials that ruled there that the Age of Monsters was long over, and the Age of Ascension had begun. Humanity, he told them, would protect the last portals of the Clipoth War, and Tianjing would be well protected as a greater part of the Yixing Empire, just as Shizuru, patron goddess of humanity, had once promised. The Celestials agreed to incorporate the lands of Tianjing into the Empire of Yixing, and the majority of the full-blooded Celestials returned to the heavens, leaving their Nephilim children to protect their kingdom after they were gone. In many ways, Ao Lin had lied to the Empire of Tianjing. He had suggested that the promised age of humanity had begun, all the while concealing that he himself was not human at all, but a powerful dragon. Ao Lin's absorption of Tianjing and its capital of Zheitang on the eastern coast of Tian Xia gave his empire substantially more reach. At this time, to secure his boundaries, Aolin also incorporated northern Shenmen and Songbai, reaching the border of the Silver Mist Woods and the kingdom of the Jinin Elves, and also incorporating into his empire the lands that would one day become called Linvarre. Aolin's deception to his people and to the celestial province of Tianjing in particular was ultimately exposed in the year 250, when Shinonome, the herald of the goddess Shizuru, confronted him in court. The source material doesn't detail the reactions of the people of Tianjing as to how they felt about this betrayal, but it is noteworthy that by 444, an army of Clipoths allied with a scheming Yaoguai named Ugang had managed to slip into the world undetected, where they eventually laid siege to the Yixing capital of Chengdu. If the Clipoths came through the Tianjing breaches, this may suggest that in the years following the exposure of Aolin's deception, there was political turmoil and upheaval occurring in Tianjing, disrupting their guardianship of the gates. Regardless, this is speculation on my part. What is known is that Tianjing was retained by the Empire of Yixing through the Clipoth sieges and for long after. Also that Aolin and his allies ultimately emerged victorious over the Clipoth and Yaoguai armies, although tragically for Aolin, 2 of his sibling advisors would be killed in the war, and his 2 other siblings abandoned their service to him in the wake of this loss. After this, Emperor Aolin became increasingly reserved, as well as becoming more obviously autocratic. In 2612, Teikoku the Chosen united the lands of modern-day Mingkai, creating the first civilization in Tian Xia of a scale comparable to Yixing, even if it was a little smaller. In response to this, Lord Aolin expanded his empire as well. By 2802, he had expanded his empire northwards, claiming the lands of modern-day Kwanlai, Wanshu, and Chuye. By 3089, he had also expanded eastwards, westwards, and southwards, claiming the lands of Goka, of Bakwan, and of the peninsula of Zahoy as well. Then in 5164, a conspiracy led by a Samsaran from the mountain realm of Ziha ultimately led to the incapacitating of Lord Aolin during a sacred tea ceremony. Relying on loyal allies from within the Silk Network, Pu Duo and his co-conspirators spirited the dragon away to imprison him in an extraplanar location, protected with the strongest spells, wards, and seals. At this time, the old empire of Yixing began to collapse. Tianjing reverted to being an independent kingdom. At this time, Kwanlai did not exist at all as a separate polity, but it formed a part of a new independent kingdom of Wanshu, as described in my Northern States video. While the land that would come to be known as Linvarre had various different names in antiquity, and like the other central parts of Tian Xia, would be laid claim to by various emergent powers, until at last it was conquered by the Empire of Shu in 5601, which brought some measure of stability back to the land. Although the Empire of Shu unified many of the central lands of Tian Xia, it never made moves to conquer Tianjing, and Tianjing was not willing to give up its independence, as the celestial lords that once governed the land had been persuaded to do in the days of Emperor Aolin. It also never mustered the forces to advance northeastwards into the lands that would become Kwanlai, and Wanshu remained an independent territory throughout this period. The Shu Empire would last from 5601 to 6536. Once again, the civil struggles that followed the collapse of the Shu Empire brought great hardships and challenges to the land that would come to be known as Linvarre. During this interregnum period, sometime around the year 6600 perhaps, in the southern part of Wanshu, the Nureba clan, a clan of Tengus, established a small Tengu kingdom for themselves, which they called Utoya. The people of independent Wanshu had no issues with the new kingdom, as the avian people largely kept to themselves. This interregnum period was relatively brief, as in 6642 the warlord Wen Wu Zeng established the Empire of Lunghua and quickly reconquered the central dominion of Shu. This new Empire of Lunghua would launch a northern conquest in 6750, also conquering the lands of Wanshu and Chuye. As part of this conquest, the Lunghua Empire also crushed the fledgling nation of Utaya, slaying the ruling council members and razing the capital, the city of Whistling Swords. Afterwards, the empire absorbed Utaya into their province of Wanshu. As described in my Northern States video, Wanshu would swiftly become the breadbasket of Lunghua, supplying vital foodstuffs across the empire. To meet the needs of the empire's food demands, the decadent emperors of Lunghua became increasingly hard on the people of Wanshu. Here, the oppression of the local people, coupled with the racial elitism of Lunghua's chiefly human overseers, led to the region's large and diverse population of Tengu being handled with particular brutality and harshness. As Tengu sentiment rose against Imperial Lunghua, the governing lords determined the way to address the situation was to forcibly move the difficult Tengu population to the southern stretch of Wanshu, where they had established their old kingdom. By 6780, Kwanlai was established as a new province, carved out of the old kingdom of Utaya, specifically intended as a place to segregate the Tengus from the rest of the regional population. Under Linvarre rule, the Tengus here suffered greatly. Over the following centuries, the Linvarre government taxed the Tengu into near starvation and treated the nation as a dumping ground for undesirables. Meanwhile, to the south of Kwanlai, Linvarre never threatened Tianjing, despite the fact that they desired to build an empire worthy of Yixing's legacy of old. They recognized it to be a better fortified land with a strong tradition of independence. Instead of conquest, Linvarre built an alliance with them, choosing to send gifts of food and supplies in honor of the celestial children's duties. Then in 7106 all that changed with the death of prophecy. The emperor of Linvarre died, and a succession crisis followed. In the wake of this turmoil, one of the first groups to react were the Tengus of Kwanlai. Kwanlai, eager to throw off the yoke of imperial occupation, launched the Feather and Starlight Rebellion in that very year, ambushing and eliminating imperial officers in a series of coordinated midnight strikes across the region. The rebellion was formed of a mix of mistreated rogues and rebels who had been exiled to Kwanlai to contain their destabilizing influence, and the Tengu priesthoods of Heifeng and Desna, which had formed a tenuous alliance and had been establishing covert training camps for warrior priests across the province. As a nation originally formed of rogues, dissident and squabbling Tengu clans struggled to find unity in the wake of the assassinations, but as formerly imperial officers from Wanshu attempted to reclaim these lands, the Tengu quickly found unity in the need to defend their kingdom. Then in 7110, the season of torrent began in Wanshu, a catastrophic period of flooding that fundamentally altered the shape of the land. Kwanlai was affected by these storms, but not as severely as the more northern lands. Subsequent to this, in 7111, a kraken named Xanagor conquered Wanshu. In the first 5 years of his rule, Xanagor launched not one, but 2 separate invasions of Kwanlai's northern border. This danger from the north further solidified unity among the people of Kwanlai, forging a backbone of iron out of their common hardships. Since then, Kwanlai has constructed a robust series of forts, battlements, and dry land areas, making the border crossing challenging for the aquatic peoples of Wanshu. Meanwhile, as independence came to the Tengu of Kwanlai, over the same period, change was coming to the kingdom west of Kwanlai. Originally founded as Amanandar, the new nation of Linvarre was established by Taldor's 8th Army of Exploration, under the leadership of General Orfiria Amanandar. Driven by a desire to restore Taldor's former grandeur, Orfiria believed that creating a colony in Tian Xia would rejuvenate her homeland. The ambitious plan took shape when in 7108 Orfiria and her weary fleet reached the land of the Dragon Empires only 2 years after the collapse of Linvarre. Encountering a harsh and unpredictable landscape, they sailed up the Sea of Ghosts, ultimately landing in Shenmen. Here they were assailed by undead forces, forcing them inland until they arrived at Kamikobu, a desolate trade city under siege by warring bandit factions. An alliance of Nephilim warriors from neighboring Tianjing and Samsaran monks from the Kelsang Mountains were struggling here to contain the violence. Recognizing an opportunity, Orfiria offered her support to eliminate the bandit threat, with the condition that she would be allowed to establish a new nation on Kamikobu's ruins. This bold proposition surprised the representatives from Tianjing and Ziha. Despite the Taldans' exhaustion and distance from their homeland, they still possessed enough forces to decisively shift the battle's outcome. After defeating the bandits, both Tianjing and Ziha agreed to Orfiria's request, seeing potential benefits in the presence of these foreign settlers. Tianjing viewed the Taldans as a strategic buffer between their territory and Shenmen, while Ziha envisioned a haven for Samsaran's human descendants. Thus Orfiria was granted authority over a wide swath of previously lawless land, and Amanandar was founded. Although Amanandar did not achieve Orfiria's dream of a Taldan renaissance, it evolved into a dynamic multicultural hub, as both Taldan and Tian people intermingled here. Over time, local frustration grew over Taldor's distant governance. Calls for self-rule intensified after Amanandar's centennial, but Taldor largely ignored these petitions, until it became embroiled in the war for the crown. Following the civil conflict, Princess Eutropia Stavian ascended to the throne, leading to a shift in Taldor's stance towards the colony. In 7220, Princess Eutropia granted Amanandar independence, and the new nation adopted a new name, Linvarre, a fusion of the Tian word for lotus, symbolizing rebirth, and an ancient Taldan term for a kingdom. This brings us to today. Linvarre and Kwanlai are new nations, seeking to forge new identities for themselves, while Tianjing is the opposite of this, the oldest nation in the region, maybe in all of Tian Xia, depending on how one measures these things, but figuring out how its millennia-old customs fit into this new world that has emerged out of the death of prophecy. Let's take a closer look at these nations individually. Linvarre. Now known as the Kingdom of the Reborn Lotus, Linvarre stands poised to chart its own ambitious path forward, embracing its diverse heritage while envisioning a future free from external control. Linvarre is centrally located on the continent, enclosed by three prominent mountain ranges. To the north, the Kelsang Mountains rise over the landscape, while in the southeast and southwest, respectively, the Gossamer Mountains of Shenmen and Kwanlai's Kimu Mountains form its southern borders. The Enlightened River, known locally as the Alushe, flows directly through the center of Linvarre, serving as its primary water source and lifeline. Linvarre's major cities are all situated within a day's journey from the Alushe. At the forefront is New Opara, the capital, which was constructed on the ancient site of Kamikobu. Sheltered by Ziha's towering peaks and enveloped by the mist from the Alushe as it descends from the Enlightened Mountains, New Opara thrives as Linvarre's political and cultural center. Other significant cities in the area include Funako, Malaru, Okim, Toduk Wa, and Vanisiara. Of these, Malaru has seen the most growth, expanding southwards into lands reclaimed from Shenmen and emerging as Linvarre's sole seaport. Linvarre's climate bears similarities to that of Taldor, featuring 4 distinct seasons. The Sea of Ghosts moderates the summer heat with cool ocean breezes, while winter is marked by chilly winds descending from the surrounding mountains. The fertile pastures along the Alushe's banks provide extensive sheep and goat farming, a tradition stemming from the livestock General Amenandar brought during her original expedition. Wool and goat's milk have since become major exports, alongside mercenary services and trade in Taldan-made goods. Approaching Linvarre's southern border, the climate shifts as the foothills of the Gossamer Mountains intersect with Shenmen's haunted Spectrewood and the ruins of Daigaki Castle. This region was once ruled by the infamous bandit leader Tsubakandu, whose spirit reawakened a century after his death to lead an undead militia here. Though he was ultimately defeated again, the land around Daigaki Castle remains unnaturally cold. Soldiers from Malaru maintain a perimeter around this area, advising travelers to avoid it for their safety. The people here are largely bilingual, speaking both Taldan and the Shu dialect of Tien. They have also evolved their own pidgin language called Taltien, which mixes words from both Taldan and Tien. Speaking of learning the local languages, schooling is compulsory in Linvarre, with classes consisting of reading, writing, and mathematics, along with both Taldan and Tien history. Instructors conduct lessons in either formal Tien or Taldan, and urge pupils to speak properly in either language, which of course inevitably fails as students revert to Taltien during the precious moments between class. The mixed people of Linvarre have developed a hard-working culture. A common aphorism about the country is, Taldans sleep while Tiens wake, but Linvarrans are up 24 hours a day. Eateries, forges, and all manner of shops are neatly organized here in impressive, vast marketplaces that can be found throughout the cities of Linvarre. These centers function as the mercantile heart of the Kingdom of the Reborn Lotus. Evenings provide an opportunity for families to spend time together, explore hobbies, appreciate the arts, and engage in prayer. Worship is often directed towards a blend of deities popular in Taldor, such as Abadar, Irori, and Shailin, as well as those revered primarily in Tian Xia, like Lady Jingxi and Shizuru. Linvarran culture embodies a rich fusion of Taldan and Tian traditions, a blend celebrated in the reimagined national flag, adopted on the first grand day of independence. Designed to honor Linvarre's heritage while distancing it from its imperialist origins, the flag retains the green and blue hues of its predecessor, a nod to its Taldan roots. However, the Taldan symbols of crown and throne have been replaced with 5 stylized lotus petals, symbolizing awakening and renewal in local tradition. The national anthem similarly reflects Linvarre's unique identity, sung in either Taldan or Tien, both versions paying homage to Linvarre's multiculturalism. Linvarran citizens abroad are often recognized for their mixed heritage, appearing somewhat Avestani and somewhat Tien. Roughly 2/3 of Linvarrans have diverse ancestries, with intermarriage at this point, almost 120 years since the colonial founding, being more common than not. While Taldans and Tian Xia have historically been the largest ethnic groups, recent years have brought a significant rise in migration, notably among Elves and Tengu, alongside established Nephilim and Samsaran communities, reflecting the long-standing ties with Tianjing and Ziha. Linvarran pastimes reflect this cultural blend, including the popular lion dance, where the lion costumes resemble either Taldor's legendary six-eyed Grogrizant, or of the Tian god Baiko, depicted uniquely in Linvarran tradition as a liger, a mix of a lion and a tiger. Dragon boat racing, originating from Zahoy, takes place along the Alushe during summer, often featuring boats decorated with Avistani dragons, defeated during Taldor's dragon plague, rather than the Tian dragons more traditional in other parts of Tian Xia. Linvarre's favorite game, Coats of Arms, evolved from a card game featuring Taldan noble heraldry, played by General Orpheria Amenandar's troops. The modern Linvarran version displays the flags of Tian Xia's successor states. General Orpheria Amenandar established her colony as a military state, a tradition which Linvarre still partially upholds. Linvarre's head of state is therefore a military general, who passes authority down to the next highest military officer upon their death. Historically, only individuals of Taldan descent held these top-ranking positions, though the advisory council, known as the General Staff, were always open to citizens of various backgrounds. This tradition shifted with the passing of Audria Vanissar, a powerful leader from a noble Taldan lineage who reigned for nearly 30 years. Following her death, her 27-year-old daughter, Jia Vanissar, who was of mixed Taldan and Tian background, became the youngest general in Linvarre's history and assumed leadership in the same year as Linvarre's independence. A known prodigy, despite her youth in her first command, Jia played a critical role in Linvarre's victory against an attack from Tsubokandu's undead forces in the west. Though some more conservative members of the general staff have questioned her on account of her youth, they have ultimately learned to trust her training and her strategic skills to sustain Linvarre's security. On the domestic front, however, some of Jia's early decisions have challenged expectations. She has ended conscription, promoting officers of non-Taldan heritage up to higher-ranking roles, and begun an open dialogue with the Taga-Malaru, addressing long-standing grievances regarding Linvarre's treatment of the port city of Malaru. Jia has also publicly expressed her intention to transition Linvarre into a democracy within a decade, possibly governed by an elected committee. Among Linvarre's more forward-thinking citizens, her progressive actions have earned her comparisons to Taldor's own reformist ruler, Princess Eutropia Stavian. Meanwhile, others remain skeptical, fearing Jia's reforms may destabilize the state. As with much in the Kingdom of the Reborn Lotus, the government itself seems poised on the brink of transformation. Opinions about democracy are sharply divided. Supporters argue that democratic elections are a logical step following independence, while critics claim that allowing all citizens, from Funaku's blacksmiths to Malaru's former resistance fighters, to influence Linvarre's leadership would be ill-suited for a nation that has long thrived under a centralized military authority. Detractors also advocate for the return to conscription, citing Linvarre's well-trained militia as the key factor in repelling Tsubokandu's undead army and defending the state from Shenmen's ongoing necromantic threats. Some factions even push for expansion southwards into Shenmen, arguing that as a free nation, Linvarre should liberate its living populace, a notion Jia has rejected as a thinly veiled return to imperialist ambitions. Jia's most trusted ally in pursuing reform is Lieutenant General Janius Bursio, a seasoned Taldan strategist and close friend of her late mother. Bursio commands the Liger Spears, an elite espionage unit akin to Taldor's Lion Blades, and is fiercely loyal to Jia, prepared to protect her even at the cost of his own life. Outside the military, Jia also draws support from her cousin, Kindra Vanissar, a compassionate leader and a devout follower of Qizhong. Kindra leads the Society of the Five-Spoked Wheel, a group that cares for the human children of Ziha's Samsarans and ensures they are adopted by caring Linvarran families. Jia's most prominent rival is Major General Kestrel Zentria. 2 years Jia's senior, Kestrel once shared a competitive friendship with Jia, which soured after Jia's rapid ascent placed her above Kestrel in rank. Rumors suggest that Kestrel's father, the cunning general staff member Stephanos Zentria, has subtly encouraged this rivalry, advising Kestrel to rally those disillusioned with Jia's leadership. Kestrel seizes every opportunity to question Jia's decisions and demands a concrete plan for a democratic transition, carefully navigating the boundaries of insubordination. It's widely understood that Kestrel aspires to reshape Linvarre according to her own vision. Whether Linvarre's journey to democracy comes to fruition or not, a confrontation between Jia and Kestrel appears inevitable. The Linvarre Gazetteer. New Opara. Linvarre's capital city, New Opara, graces the banks of the Alushe River, blending Taldan and Tian architectural styles. Landmark sites include the majestic 10,000 Lotus Temple, a towering pagoda, and Raukado Market, the largest hawker center in Linvarre. The city is also home to the Okalio Institute, an esteemed academy for arcanists. Funako. Situated near the border with Jinin, Funako is home to the majority of Linvarre's elven population and a major hub for the trade of dawn silver. Local blacksmiths here have mastered the art of refining Jinin's dawn silver, and the city's Chanmar Hawker Center is a destination for those seeking elven-forged weaponry. Todukwa. Linvarre's former largest settlement, Todukwa, is famed for the Monastery of the Blended Forms, a prestigious martial arts retreat inspired by Taldor's Monastery of the Seven Forms. This monastery, founded by soldiers and migrants from the Order of the Stalwart Fist, is a training ground for aspiring martial artists who spend at least 6 months here mastering the various forms of combat. Vanissaria. Founded by Brutus Vanissar, Jayi Vanissar's great-grandfather, Vanissaria was designed as a peaceful haven away from the bustle of New Opara. The town is the ancestral home of the Vanissar family and houses the Temple of the Eternal and Exquisite Rose, the largest temple dedicated to Shaolin in all of Tian Xia. Okim. Once a modest military outpost, Okim has gained a reputation for its production of fireworks, with its skyline often cloaked in soot and smoke from explosive displays. Rumors suggest that the Thieves' Guild from Kwanlai cities, such as Sedoyaji and Todorokazi, operate here, dealing black powder to a variety of clandestine buyers. Daigaki Castle. Once the stronghold of the ruthless warlord Tsubakandu, Daigaki Castle now lies in ruin. General Orpheria Amanandar defeated Tsubakandu in 7108, but his spirit, revived by a necromantic ritual, returned a century later to haunt the region with an army raised from the Spectrewood. It took the combined forces of Audria and a young Jayi Vanissar to permanently exorcise him in 7211. The area remains desecrated, and patrols monitor it to prevent any resurgence of his vengeful spirit. Melaru. Known as the City of Indigo Flowers, Melaru lies on the Spectrewood's edge, near the Sea of Ghosts. The city's Tagamalaru residents, whose culture once revolved around riverside communities, were unified under the name Melaru after General Orpheria Amanandar claimed the area, following her victory over Tsubakandu's undead. The Tagamalaru's resistance rose in response, protesting both ghostly warlords and Taldan saviors who reshaped their future without their consent. Melaru's architecture and culture now embody a blend of Tian, Taldan, and Tagamalaru influences, with its distinctive tropical Gothic and earthquake Baroque styles featuring large stone-raised houses and grand churches built around ancient trees. Community life centers around these cathedrals, where marketplaces and vibrant gatherings recreate local traditions with a Taldan aesthetic. Kwanlai. As one of the final nations of Tian Xia to regain stability following the collapse of Linvarre, Kwanlai serves as the ancestral homeland of the Tengu. Even after 105 years, the nation continues to grapple with the turmoil wrought by the Linvarre Empire. With many citizens trapped in the grip of poverty, the potential for prosperity remains just out of reach. The clans are embroiled in internal conflict, vying for improved conditions for their members while losing sight of the broader context. Meanwhile, those with a more temperate approach strive to revive the peace and cooperation celebrated in their pre-imperial legends before those narratives are lost to history. Geopolitically, Kwanlai's southern boundary shares a border with the allied state of Tianjing, a relationship facilitated but also complicated by the challenging topography of the Qimu Mountains, which make precise demarcations of the border challenging and trade difficult. A heavily traversed mountain pass through the Qimu Mountains does link Kwanlai with Tianjing's Kaimuko Wood, establishing a vital yet laborious trade route that benefits both regions economically. Although instances of violent robbery along this route are rare, traders must still contend with stealthy bandits, who often manage to relieve them of their goods. Conversely, Kwanlai's northern border is marked by proximity to Wanshu, regarded as its most significant geopolitical threat. To the west lies the state of Linvarre, where an uneasy peace prevails, sustained by Kwanlai's limited appeal to its neighbor and the natural defense afforded by its mountainous terrain. On its eastern coast, Kwanlai borders the Zidao Gulf, where it finds its principal ally, Zidao. Across the Gulf lies Mingkai, an important trading partner that maintains commercial exchange with Kwanlai. Located in central Kwanlai, near the base of the Qimu Mountains, is the Vale of Green Spears, an expansive bamboo forest steeped in legend. Folklore holds that the hero Tian Xia convinced a wizard to plant the forest's original trees, either to test the hero's abilities or to create a sanctuary for displaced birds, depending on the account. Today this forest has achieved fame for its towering bamboo, whose stalks rival even the oldest dragons in height, and are highly valued for producing large ceremonial drums. The bamboo shoots, celebrated as a delicacy, are sought throughout Kwanlai, yet harvesting bamboo here is not without significant risk, as the dragon Genseren once guarded the old-growth areas with lethal vigilance. Though Genseren is recently left, her progeny now claims the tallest bamboo as their territory, making the region perilous for those seeking to harvest its prized resource. As a coastal tropical nation, Kwanlai experiences predominantly warm and humid weather throughout the year, making it challenging to discern the seasons without consulting a calendar. However, the onset of the growing season is unmistakable. From late summer to late autumn, warm summer breezes from Zidao converge with cool mountain air from the Kimu Mountains, resulting in nearly daily torrential rainfall. This abundance of rain floods the fields and serves as a constant reminder of the necessity for stilted homes. In contemporary Kwanlai, the annual rhythms of life are still largely governed by the rainy season, as the nation's artisanal and mineral exports are dwarfed by its agricultural output. Kwanlai's primary exports include alcohol, coffee, and tobacco, all of which are heavily reliant on the year's rainfall. The country's tobacco, which requires better drainage than Kwanlai's native soil can offer, is cultivated on elevated planters, located on the traditional stilted buildings. After harvest, the tobacco is dried in huts, heated by smoky bamboo fires, which impart a distinctive flavor. While Kwanlai produces very little rice or buckwheat for export, those grains serve as the foundation for its alcohol industry. The culture of Kwanlai has been significantly shaped by its tumultuous history. As a land marked by suffering and atrocities, Kwanlai is gradually rising from the ashes of its past, becoming a place where broken dreams are slowly being reassembled. The Tengus are accustomed to hardship, adept at making do with limited resources and transforming scarcity into value. Under the Linvarre Empire, music was severely restricted, nearly eradicating Tengu traditional instruments. The kanagis, a 13-string zither, has only recently re-emerged in Kwanlai, due to the efforts of the Tengu diaspora. For 4 centuries, only one musician per settlement was permitted to perform, marking the passage of day and night. Following the overthrow of Lord Somhu Wa, the Tengus rushed to produce as many flutes and drums as possible, resulting in the lively and cacophonous sounds that now characterize the mornings and evenings. The idiom "hands are golden" encapsulates the Tengu belief that through time and labor they can surmount inequity. While wealthier nations may construct dams to redirect rivers from urban areas, Kwanlai is simply adapted by building its structures on stilts, allowing the water to flow beneath. Although this method of construction is challenging, it requires only bamboo, a resource that is abundantly available. Stilted buildings have become a distinctive feature of Kwanlai architecture, remaining prevalent even in cities with sophisticated drainage systems. The only exceptions are the mountain communities, where elevations pose a challenge to construction. The Tengu's ability to adapt to adverse conditions is also reflected in their forthrightness and their expectation that individuals express their needs clearly. In a context where every crumb is precious, excessive politeness can lead to starvation. Outsiders might interpret the patrons' shouts for service in tea houses as merely a part of Kwanlai's vibrant nightlife. However, they will quickly learn that servers will overlook them until they vocalize their requests. Religious observance is another significant aspect of Tengu culture, with followers of Haifeng and Desna vastly outnumbering adherents of other faiths. Several holidays in Kwanlai explicitly celebrate the worship of these deities or highlight their deeds. Although some hardline factions, like the Haifeng and Sunderstorm Covenant, have viewed this as a pathway towards theocracy, the nationalization of religious holidays has paradoxically encouraged a growing number of Tengus to embrace multiple faiths. The expulsion of the Linvarre Empire also propelled alcohol to the forefront of Kwanlai's culture. The Tengus here produce a significant quantity of alcohol. The traditional beverages are Kwanlaishu and Mugiski. However, these have actually been overshadowed by a collaborative initiative between the Kwanlai and Bakwan governments to promote a new liquor called Dragon's Tongue. This beverage is a blend of Kwanlaishu, Mugiski, peppers, and spice, creating a fiery drink that caters to the Tengu's high tolerance for spice. To promote tourism and consumption, the government hosts an annual Dragon's Tongue drinking competition in the spring. Tengus approach clothing with a practical mindset. They often opt for cords or knotted belts instead of buttons, and prefer loose, adjustable garments over layered outfits. Given that Kwanlai has few domesticated mammals and no cotton production, most clothing is made from bamboo, straw, wood, or a textile known as woodcloth, which is by far the most common material. Woodcloth exemplifies the Tengu hands are golden philosophy. Lacking the funds for imported textiles, the Tengus here innovatively developed a method for transforming bamboo and pine trees into fibers, which they spin into yarn and weave into cloth, while unconventional wood cloth performs comparably to traditional textiles, and its raw materials are virtually cost-free. The clans of Kwanlai function as familial networks, treating both blood relatives and adopted members with equal regard. The Nephilim Kitsune Athamarus, Tianmins, and Tianxus, forcibly resettled into Kwanlai by Linvarre, have become integral parts of the Tengu society. Notably, just 5 years ago, Councillor Urei Utsobu of Sedoyaji made history as the first Athamaru to secure a voting seat on the Sevenfold Council. Kwanlai is ostensibly governed by the Sevenfold Council, a group of elders whose name can be misleading, as the true power lies with Lady Sutarai Gongen. She skillfully guides discussions and influences votes. Fortunately, her leadership has been marked by general benevolence. The council represents 25 clans, with 5 major clans enjoying full membership. The remaining 20 recognized clans share just 2 votes among them, while unrecognized clans have no voice in national governance, a source of simmering resentment that, while not currently challenged, remains a concern. Lady Sutarai Gongen, a half-celestial Tengu cleric, hails from the priesthood of Heifeng. Throughout her travels across Galarian as a healer and warrior, she has balanced violence and compassion. Some say she manifested as the lightning bolt that struck Heifeng's old shrine in Todorokaze, consuming it but sparing the priests and worshippers inside. Despite her allegiance to Heifeng, she enjoys popularity among Desnans, followers of the Monkey King, and Tengu who don't adhere to a single deity. Ironically, her most vocal critics come from her own priesthood, hardliners within the Sunderstorm Covenant frequently urging her to declare Heifeng as Kwanlai's official deity. She responds with a polite smile, listens attentively, and continues her efforts to establish a stable political and economic foundation for Kwanlai while addressing internal clan divisions and preparing for Wanshu's inevitable third invasion. Councillor Yamate Chiki, the head of the Kimu Mountains Yamate clan and a voting member of the Sevenfold Council, takes a responsibility for guarding Kwanlai's western borders seriously, perhaps excessively so. For years her scouts have reported signs of Shenmen incursions, but she is constrained from taking significant action that could provoke a deadly diplomatic or military conflict. Compounding her challenges are smugglers from Todorokaze, who frequently engage in illicit exchanges with the nation of Linvarre. Meanwhile, tasked with defending Kwanlai's most perilous border, Councillor Wanami Ku, a gleeful Tengu artillerist, must meet the dangers posed by northern Wanshu. Formerly a construction foreperson, their experimental border defenses require extensive training, something that cannot occur at the border without alerting Wanshu. Wanami continues to seek trusted field testers and new technologies. The wealthiest individual in Kwanlai and the leader of the clan that founded Utaya centuries ago, Councillor Nereba, a shrewd leader, is known solely by his illustrious surname. Outside of council duties, he serves as the governor of Hisu Karasu. Virtually every business in Kwanlai is somehow linked to him, and earning his favor, or convincing others of his approval, is the most effective way to secure advantageous deals. Noyaki Fun, an elder of the Noyaki clan and a pensive Tengu storyteller, believes in the power of the Tengu oral tradition. Unfortunately, as more knowledge becomes documented on paper, traditionalists like him find themselves increasingly marginalized. He believes the shift from oral to written knowledge threatens to erase the wisdom of Kwanlai's elders. Fun lacks the resources to profitably transport stories from remote villages, but he can offer a few gold pieces and his extensive knowledge of people throughout Kwanlai in return for their tales. Susume Kenko, an incendiary Tengu provocateur and a priest of Sun Wukong, understands that advancing her agenda requires staying ahead of the competition. To achieve this, she has been on a strange mission to incite resentment among religious extremists, particularly those within the Heifeng and Sunderstorm Covenant. By provoking them into rash actions, such as denouncing Desna and other deities, Kenko hopes to erode their public support and diminish their power. The Kwanlai Gazetteer. The City of Whistling Swords. The city of Whistling Swords, once the illustrious capital of the ancient Utaya dynasty, now stands in ruins and is largely avoided by the local Tengu population. Folktales recount the presence of malevolent spirits and supernatural threats within its borders. While some of these tales are exaggerated, the city's haunted reputation remains partially substantiated, as hundreds of ghosts are reported to linger within its abandoned streets. The more immediate threat, however, is an underworld dragon named Muji, who resides beneath the palace grounds and commands a cadre of rat kings and oni servants that occupy the remains of the marketplace and university, scavenging for food and preying upon intruders. Hisu Karasu. Centrally situated along the coast, Hisukurasu serves as the capital of Kwanlai, holding great symbolic significance for its people. As the former stronghold of Imperial Linvarre, the victory of the Feather and Starlight Rebellion here rendered Lord Sem Hu Wa powerless to quell the uprising. In addition to being the seat of Kwanlai's leadership, the capital also hosts the mostly submerged Zidao Embassy, which has served to strengthen the alliance between Kwanlai and the Oceanic Kingdom. Their important allies of Minkai and Tianjing also hold significant embassies in the city as well. Beyond its historical and political significance, Hisukurasu leads Kwanlai in trade, with around 100,000 gold piece worth of cargo in its harbor on any given day. A portion of this is invariably stolen by the Karasaguchi Thieves Guild. Interestingly, members of the Kind Faces, the city's other famous thieves guild, rarely engage in theft, as they focus more on conning tourists in the theater district. Nagayamatsu. This medium-sized city spans the Sangha River, Kwanlai's widest and deepest river. While Nagayamatsu is the only port in the nation that accommodates both freshwater and saltwater vessels, it also holds the dubious distinction of being the city closest to Tianjing's notoriously haunted Kangshur Island. Although prosperous, Nagayamatsu's growth is hindered by its past. Originally a cluster of river delta farms, the Imperials forcibly relocated these communities, replacing them with a hybrid city of stone and floating bamboo. Since then, the city's edge has remained adjacent to the displaced farms, whose owners refuse to yield any additional land. Todorokaze. As the sole city in the Kimu Mountains, Todorokaze attracts numerous travelers and serves as a vital stop for caravans transporting goods through the mountains. More importantly, it houses the largest Heifeng shrine in Tian Xia. The city experiences tempestuous weather, with lightning rods lining all roads within its borders. During storms, these rods illuminate under cascading bolts of lightning. Tianjing. The territory historically safeguarded by celestials from the Qlipoths during the Age of Monsters came to be known as Tianjing. Renowned for its exceptional natural beauty and its benevolent populace, Tianjing is nonetheless permeated by an undercurrent of wariness. Initially, outsiders may perceive Tianjing as a realm of celestial perfection. However, after a few days, they often sense a disquiet lurking just beyond their view, which is a reflection of the underlying reality here. The brilliance of Tianjing has always been accompanied by a tangible, if invisible, shadow. This atmosphere of unease, coupled with the formidable presence of the Nephilim residing in Tianjing, long deterred Linvarre from ever attempting to conquer the region. Instead, the Empire opted to send tributes of food and supplies in recognition of the Celestial Guardian's responsibilities. However, with the fall of the Empire, these tributes ceased, leaving Tianjing, once reliant on Linvarre's generosity, to confront the challenges of self-sufficiency. This transition precipitated a period marked by scarcity, turmoil, and banditry. In the decades that followed, Tianjing has managed to recover and regain its self-sufficiency, but at a cost. The populace has diverted its focus from the religious temples and protective seals to the urgent task of national reconstruction. This shift has resulted in the neglect of essential rituals necessary for the renewal of the magical wards, leading to their deterioration. Furthermore, banditry and exploitation by profiteers have led to the desecration of several holy sites, inflicting further damage. At present, Tianjing confronts a threat more dire than any it has faced since its inception. The weakening of its protective wards has allowed malign magic to seep through the failing seals, with its influence expanding by the hour. Despite this grave situation, the ruling council remains ensconced in Zitang, seemingly either unable or unwilling to confront the reality of their shortcomings. The latent terrors beneath Tianjing's surface are not immediately apparent. The region enjoys a temperate climate, complemented by sheltered beaches along the Sea of Ghosts, Benshu Bay and Naikang Bay. Additionally, the Kaimuko Wood, a vast forest enriched by the Celestials with incense cedars, sweet muskwood, and other valuable timber, offers substantial natural resources. The landscape is characterized by verdant hills and forests, illuminated by fireflies, with gentle winds and vibrant sunsets, enhancing its allure. The fragrance of burning incense pervades the air here, contributing to an ambience imbued with holiness. However, as noted, following the fall of Linvarre, the influx of bandits, pirates, and civil unrest has led to the degradation of many of Tianjing's holy sites. Although invisible to outsiders, the residents are acutely aware of the encroaching deterioration of the sanctified aura that envelops their homeland. Within the depths of the Kaimuko Wood, particularly in the western part of the country, fresh rifts have emerged in the earth. Trees exposed to the noxious vapors from these fissures exhibit weeping wounds, while animals that venture too close to the contaminated soil succumb to peculiar diseases. Although these corrupting influences have not yet encroached upon the forest's periphery, nor are they visible from the ornate temples that dot the landscape, those who dare to explore the interior have often begun to witness ominous signs. In northern Tianjing, which borders Kwanlai, a mountainous region features entire peaks carved into monasteries, adorned with palatial temples whose stepped roofs gleam in shades of green and red under the sun. Esteemed centers of religious and martial learning, such as the Senheng Monastery and Doro Tepil, are situated on these remote heights, accessible only to those willing to navigate the steep snow-laden paths. Here, too, alarming omens have begun to manifest during the monks' meditations, casting shadows over their celestial observations. Tianjing is bordered by salt water on 3 sides, east, south, and west, with the far-reaching eastern point serving as the site of their capital city of Zheitang. This location overlooks 3 excellent natural harbors, establishing Zheitang as the center of trade and the primary point of contact between Tianjing and the outside world. At one point in their long-storied history, a flotilla of pirates besieged Tianjing, only to be punished by divine retribution, resulting in the wreckage of their fleet lying beneath the azure waters of the eastern bay. Ocean currents have since carried many of the shipwrecks to the shore of Kangshur Island, situated outside Tianjing's sacred aura, where the vengeful spirits of the pirates are said to rise during winter nights. The ancient conflict involving the Celestials has fundamentally shaped the identity of Tianjing, establishing a legacy that is deeply embedded in the people's heritage and manifested in the region's geographical features. Some of the oldest temples in Tianjing date back to this founding era. Although these structures have undergone numerous reconstructions with only a few foundational stones and mountain-face statues remaining from the original designs, they still exude an atmosphere of immense antiquity within their quiet stone halls. In Tianjing, the concepts of duty and religion are intricately woven into the everyday lives of their inhabitants. From a young age, children are instructed in the Ushtung mantra, in its original Empyrean language. Temple gongs resonate with mandalas inspired by divine flora, intricately designed with protective runes, and these motifs are frequently reflected in local clothing and jewelry. The majority of Tianjing's population consists of individuals touched by celestial ancestry. Given the diversity of the celestial host, there exists a notable lack of uniformity among the celestial features of their descendants, a variability that has only increased over millennia of intermingling. In Tianjing, both Empyrean and Tian languages are commonly spoken. A notable concern arises from the inability of some individuals to correctly pronounce Empyrean, a deficiency that can elicit disapproval among some elitists in their population. Historically, certain sacred phrases served as tests to identify Qliphoth agents, and those unable to articulate those words without suffering burns on their tongues were suspected of being infiltrators. To this day, such assessments are occasionally employed in restricted areas of the temples. It is also important to recognize that the distinctive characteristics of Tianjing's populace are not solely attributable to celestial heritage. Some individuals trace their lineage back to the Qliphoth. For millennia, Celestials and their descendants have pursued these bloodlines relentlessly, leading many Qliphoth-blooded individuals into secrecy. Currently, those who are aware of their ancestry tend to keep it confidential, while the majority consider themselves ordinary Tianji, unaware of their true heritage. Regardless of their lineage, all Tianji are indoctrinated from birth with the belief that it is their lifelong obligation to uphold the magic that permeates the land. Upon reaching adulthood, every youth is expected to serve as an acolyte in a local monastery for 2 years, with many pious individuals dedicating as many as 10. These acolytes or bulako are crucial for maintaining Tianjing's sacred wards, acting as the first line of defense against potential breaches. As part of their sacred training, they learn to recognize signs of weakened wards and how to reinforce them using incense, prayers, jagyun petal powder, and skywheel crystals. Clad in blue robes and sandals, their heads shaved except for 3 braids at the nape of the neck, the bulako depart from the monasteries each spring to undertake their assignments. Some travel across Tianjing, covering extensive circuits, while others are designated to specific temples or communities. It is a long-held tradition that the bulako are to be offered assistance and hospitality, as their efforts safeguard the realm. In contrast, the Kangur, paid worshippers, have emerged as a more recent phenomenon, gaining prominence after the civil unrest that followed the collapse of Linvarre. They are easily identified by their yellow-painted wooden medallions, which they wear conspicuously as a testament to their profession. While some Kangur are earnest in their duties and seek training from temple sages in bulako, others are less committed, as the primary qualification for being a Kangur is a willingness to participate in lay ceremonies. Although most of Tianjing's populace regards these rituals with reverence, it is not uncommon for a Kangur to approach their role with some degree of indifference. The fact that they perform prayers for monetary compensation inevitably diminishes the sincerity of their faith. The residents of Tianjing are aware of this issue. However, those who employ Kangur view their presence as a regrettable necessity, one that has become increasingly acceptable over recent generations. Tianjing has never been a densely populated nation and has suffered significant losses during its recent civil conflicts. Rebuilding efforts have demanded substantial resources, and although the nation has achieved a degree of stabilization, much remains to be accomplished. Tianjing is governed by the Nianrang conclave from its capital of Zhejiang. This conclave is composed of the most learned and esteemed sages from the country's temples and monasteries, individuals believed to be best equipped to advance the guardian tradition. Nevertheless, even those touched by the divine are not exempt from the frailties of age, and few members of the conclave retain the ability to travel beyond the capital. Consequently, the real power resides with the secretary of the conclave, who translates the councilors' decisions into actionable measures. The current secretary, Etsul Gempo, has not taken seriously the potential threat of the Qliphoth breaches in the Holy Seals. Given that these wards were established by celestials of remarkable wisdom and power, Genpo perceives them as virtually infallible. Meanwhile, the pressing realities of Tianjing's populace, who endure starvation in harsh winters, suffer the loss of homes to spring floods, and contend with year-round banditry, are far from allegorical. Thus, despite receiving numerous reports of unsettling phenomena from the Bulako, Secretary Genpo prioritizes alleviating the tangible suffering of his people over addressing what he considers an unfounded fear. Those fears, however, should be recognized to be very real. In the capital city of Zhejiang, a humble cobbler's shop is owned by an apparently innocuous old man named Mikar. In truth, Mikar is a cell leader in the Brotherhood of the Splintered Word, a cult dedicated to undermining Tianjing's sacred seals and facilitating the return of the Qliphoths. Some members of the Brotherhood, possessing Qliphoth ancestry, believe that their distant lineage will elevate them to positions of power in a new regime, a misguided hope that Mikar actively fosters. Others harbor a deep-seated animosity towards the Celestials because their own ancestors were hunted down and desire to see them suffer. Mikar himself has often felt like a second-class citizen among the Celestial touch and is often consumed by envy, harboring a deep resentment for their seemingly effortless happiness. With each passing year, as his own life dwindles and his prospects diminish, Mikar's hatred and desire for revenge grows. Meanwhile, counted among the more mortal threats, the bandit chieftain Aprad Varja, originally hailing from Nagajor and finding her way to northern Tianjing after a series of misadventures. Accompanied by her last loyal followers, she sought refuge here, knowing they could anticipate more civilized treatment if caught. To Varja's astonishment, her band has thrived for the first time, establishing her camp in a valley that initially struck her as cursed due to its unsettling echoes and mists that formed grotesque visages. Surprisingly, this valley is proven to be an excellent hideout, seemingly concealing its entrance from Tianjing's guards. As Varja has grown accustomed to the eerie whispers of the mist, she has discovered their utility in guiding her to isolated temples replete with treasures and minimal security. After a lackluster career thus far, she is grateful for the assistance. Thus, her expanding bandit organization has continued to grow. The Tianjing Gazetteer. The following are notable locations within Tianjing. The Graveyard of Kipaku. In 7112, pirates from the floating city of Paizo launched an attack on Tianjing, seeking to plunder its temples. The Celestials and their descendants bravely defended their homeland, resulting in a bloody battle that left thousands dead. The conflict escalated, leading to the Celestial host unleashing a devastating display of magic, shattering the valley and creating the Kipaku Graveyard. This location serves as a memorial for those who sacrificed their lives in defense of Tianjing and has since become a site for spiritual reflection. The Senhang Monastery. An ancient structure nestled high in the mountainous terrain, the Senhang Monastery has served as a bastion of celestial knowledge and training for the Bulako. Founded during the celestial conflict, this monastery remains a place of spiritual fortitude, drawing individuals from across Tianjing. Its library houses priceless texts, and the monks practice various forms of meditation and martial arts here. The Silver Gardens. Famed for their breathtaking beauty, the Silver Gardens are a collection of meticulously designed landscapes showcasing divine flora. These gardens are often the site of festivals, where the people of Tianjing gather to celebrate their heritage, honor the Celestials, and express their gratitude for the bounties of the land.